Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, my Amish neighbor, and today we're going to talk about the difference between Mennonites and Amish. I know a lot of people get that confused. One of the things I really want to stress is they both come from the same background. They both come from an Anabaptist background. It's a religion more than it is a lifestyle like most people think. I did make a video with lots of details about that, how the schism started back in the 1600s with Martin Luther. They were part of that, and I did do a detailed video about that, and it's right there above. But what I want to emphasize today is some of the ways they are similar today, and then some of the ways that they're different. And one of the things that I really want to stress again is it's more of a religion that holds them together as a community and not just being a community, if that makes sense. You and I, a lot of us go to different Protestant churches or Catholic or things like that. That makes us be part of that church based on our religion, and some churches will practice different lifestyles that are only similar to their church. You can start looking at Pentecostal churches and things like that. So today, let's look at some of the similarities first. There are two main similarities, and one is Christianity. They see Christianity as a belief in Jesus Christ and a willingness to have discipline and accept Him as their Savior. Now, where you go from that, it could start getting different, but their core value in Christianity is the same. Okay. Your Amish tend to be more strict and disciplined with their beliefs, and they keep it to themselves, if that makes sense. In general, we always have to give that disclaimer that there's always differences. When I give you some information, not every group is the same, but your Mennonites believe that their mission is to go out and spread the word. So they're more apt to go out and share their faith with other people outside of their community, where the Amish tend to stick to themselves with it, if that makes sense. The Amish will meet at their own homes, and they kind of go from home to home, where the Mennonites actually have a meeting house, just similar to what our churches are today here in America. So the core value is the Christianity, and then from there they're a little bit different. Another really, really strong core value that they share is their answer to conflict. They believe in non-resistance, and they believe in pacifism. So you will most likely hardly ever find an Amish person or a Mennonite join the military, because they believe that answer to that conflict is not, they believe answer to conflict is to be pacifists. Now, will they get involved and try to help? They might do it in other ways, but not by going out and joining the military and participating in war. Now, I've just shared with you two fundamental ways that the Amish and Mennonite are similar. So I really want to emphasize that, how that background is very similar. But now as they started to grow as a community and as a group, there's some things that they did differently. And one of them, it all started with a gentleman named Jacob Ammon. He believed that sinning resulted in excommunication should result in more serious punishment. Back then, if you sinned, a lot of times they might have had consequences, but he believed that people should be shunned. You shouldn't be allowed to be part of our community anymore if you cannot abide by the rules that we're told to abide by. So very strict. And then within the Amish community, you'll even find that as the groups started to emerge, some people held on to those really strict rules of shunning, and now you may have some groups that don't shun anymore. So even within the Amish community, you're going to see that difference. But that's basically what makes Amish splitting from the Mennonite, is the shunning and that rule. They're very, very devout, very legalistic, you might say, in their rules. Now the Mennonites, they believe that they should go out and start to practice sharing the word with their fellow citizens in the world. And so they go out and they'll do some missionary trips and things like that. You'll even find them using technology that will help them spread the word, where your Amish communities will not. Or if they do use any technology, it will be very restricted. So I'm going to give you an example of a phone where a Mennonite family may have a phone line coming right into their house, or they may own their cell phone and pay the bill, where someone from the Amish community will be restricted in how they can use it. Now, some of our neighbors and people that we have dealt with, that we've asked and interviewed, they are allowed to use the phone if it's work related. And we have one neighbor that they don't even bring the phone in the house. They leave it either in their shop, or one gentleman leaves it in his neighbor's barn. So again, that's another difference of the restrictions. Another one that I want to talk about is their worship. Now, we just talked about how, yes, they worship the same God and they're both very devout. But they don't worship the same way. Your Mennonites will have a worship house, so something similar to a church where they all come together every week and they worship together. In your Amish community, they will rotate to different people's houses. And basically, some of the communities will only meet every other week instead of every week. They'll meet every other week with the community, and those off weeks they will meet with family. Because a lot of our Amish friends and Mennonites do not all live in the same community. They may have family that lives in another state. So sometimes they reserve those off weeks where they can go visit them. So that's a big difference there. All right, number 3, I want to talk about transportation. It's a huge difference. Mennonite families in general are allowed to own motor vehicles so that they can get around, where your Amish community are still using horse-drawn buggies or horse-drawn transportation. They're not doing it so that everybody will come through town and say, oh, aren't they cute? They're simplifying their life. They're not doing it for that reason. It's more so they want their community to stay close-knit and be close to each other. So think about it yourself. If you want to take a trip, it's going to be a lot easier to jump in a car than it is to take a horse and buggy. Now, are they allowed in vehicles? Absolutely. They have family. Like I said, in other states, people... we live in a broader world now. And so what they'll do is they'll hire a driver to take them. But it is an inconvenience. So you're not going to do it as often as you and I might do it, where we just jump in the car and we'll drive 6 hours away and come back. They have to hire a driver, pay for them, and it just becomes more of a big ordeal. So most of the time, if you see somebody in a horse and buggy, most likely they are Amish. It doesn't mean Mennonites can't, but that's a general difference. One of the other things that I'd like to talk about is their clothing. You're going to notice the Amish are going to be more apt to just be wearing the black dresses for the women with just a solid color shirt. Typically, you may see that it's just a navy blue and that's it. They don't tend to have a lot of color in their clothes. Same with the men. They're pretty easy to identify, but you might see a woman wearing a dress that looks Amish, but it might have flowers all over it. In that case, that woman is probably most likely a Mennonite. The Amish community sticks more to the plain colors and the plain clothing, where the Mennonites, you're going to find them at all different levels. Maybe they still have the plain pattern, but they've added the color. And same thing with the men. So that is definitely something that you can tell the difference if you see that. So basically, to sum it up, your Amish and your Mennonite are very, very similar as far as their faith goes, but the differences are more in their outward practice of those beliefs. So foundationally, they're very similar, their core commitment to faith, family, and community, but outwardly, they have allowed themselves to be different, if that makes sense. But on the inside, in their heart, they're a lot the same. All right, I hope that helps you. It's kind of fun sometimes when you're out, especially if I'm at an auction or something. I do have fun just kind of seeing, okay, are they Amish or Mennonite? And we even saw some Mennonite, a man and his 2 sons, and they all had like fedoras on. And I said, oh my gosh, it's like a liberal Mennonite. But they looked cool. They didn't have the straw hat. They still wore the dark pants. They had suspenders on. They had a bright colored shirt, all 3 of them, and then they had a fedora to match. So I thought that was kind of cool. So even within the community, you can see those. I hope you learned a little bit about the Amish and the Mennonites today. If you have anything to share, just put it in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video